Hello, welcome to the House of Wellness. I'm Luke Darcy, and happy as always to be alongside Joe Stanley. Welcome, Joe.
Darcy, it's always a delight to be here with you, and we're almost slap bang in the middle of spring, which is gorgeous. That means warmer days and time to peel off those winter layers. And I'm not just talking jumpers and jackets. I spent a lot of time recently going to the fridge. So I reckon I've got a few layers there I could shed as well. I know I'm not alone in that, Darcy.
Well, I definitely feel that surge of energy when spring comes around, you get a bit of sun and you feel better. But I'm with you, given we've spent so much time in our house. I've had this habit, Sunday's my day off, called the foot on the weekend, and I've had to try and hide like one bag of chips somewhere in the cupboard and hope that one of the kids doesn't find. They always find them, and then I genuinely crack it on a Sunday. It's like the one thing I wanted, just a little bit of a treat, and someone's knocked it off.
It doesn't work to bag food in a family because someone will find it. We hide food too from my husband. If there's chocolate in the house and I know I want to eat it, I have to put it somewhere because he'll smash an entire block in one night, whereas I like to have just a little piece here, a little piece there. You know, just
It's like that little bit of tension we're all feeling at the moment. Dad is eating all the chocolate, the kids are stolen my chips. That's the lockdown way. That's
it really is. I'm a big believer in everything in moderation, and particularly at this time in our lives, I reckon you need a little bit of something to give you a lift, which is why I go to the chocolate. Not Hinesy, though. He's got a healthy alternative for everything. And today he's serving up his healthy homemade granola.
Which will be brilliant. I'm looking forward to that. Well, from our mouths to our feet, podiatrist Adelaide's Helen Banwell has put together the weirdest foot problems that will seriously make your toes curl, Joe.
Yep. No, I'm not very good with feet. Thank you very much. I'm much better with the next topic, which is alcohol. Why being a two-pot screamer, in other words, having a low tolerance to alcohol, is actually a good thing. Aussies tend to give bragging rights to people who can handle their booze, Dars, obviously. I know you've probably come from that footy world where it's like that, but it's not a good thing, especially when it comes to our hearts.
Yeah, fair point. These days, we're all becoming a lot more educated about heart disease and stroke, but I don't reckon there's many of us who actually stop to think about how the heart works, Joe.
In the same way we look after our cars with regular servicing, so do the valves of our heart need some TLC. Here's Melbourne heart specialist Professor Tom Marwick with why we should all be listening more closely to messages from the heart. In layman's terms, can you explain how the heart valves work and how important their job is?
So the heart valves are a door to make sure that the fluid, the blood going through the heart, travels in one direction. Probably the best analogy is just to think about an engine in a car. There's valves there to make sure that the air and the fuel are mixed in the appropriate way. And if those valves are damaged, then the engine won't work properly. And the same thing in the heart. If the heart valves are damaged, then blood can leak backwards and its progress forwards can be compromised. And therefore the pump works less efficiently than it should do.
In August of 2019, a group of us decided we'd take on the push-up challenge for men's health. And it was, I think, 1,328 push-ups in 25 days. We decided we'd push out 2,000 push-ups. So I was about halfway through the challenge and I started to get really fatigued, short of breath, and I knew it just wasn't me.
People that develop symptoms, the most common symptom is exercise intolerance. So the inability to do activities that they would assume that they'd be able to do, either because of tiredness or shortness of breath.
I went and saw a cardiologist and had an echo sound. And then I caught up with him a week later and he said to me that my aortic valve was quite damaged and needed to be replaced. There was nothing that I'd done. It was purely age and the fact that the valve works so hard and it works for so long, it had just worn out. It was simple as that.
And when you talk about exercise intolerance, I imagine it's hard to identify that as separate from I'm just tired and I'm ageing.
Yeah, that is the essence of the problem. When people develop exercise intolerance, it happens gradually. They very subtly change what they actually feel able to do or want to do. And so they really never get into the situation that they're feeling short of breath or uncomfortable until it turns into a crisis.
For 2 or 3 weeks, I was playing golf and couldn't get past 4 or 5 holes and had no energy, could not proceed past that point in time. And on the last day, the final day, I stopped on the halfway up the 5th hole and thought, I have to do something. Can it go on? I must get checked out.
We think that there are about more than 500,000 people in Australia with heart valve disease, and we think that about 250,000 of them are unaware that they have a problem.
And how serious is the situation if it's left undiagnosed?
Well, eventually it can be very serious. It can be a source of heart failure or death. Now, the process of the heart valves deteriorating to that stage can take years, but the longer that the problem is unrecognised, the more likely it is that the rest of the heart will be damaged by the abnormal valve.
I woke up after the anaesthetic at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I had not felt as good for over 20 years. Straight away, absolutely straight away.
Unfortunately, this is a condition where there isn't a specific tablet to take, so the treatments are interventions. So in former years, they were heart valve surgery, the replacement of a valve. In the current era, it's possible to do a lot of those procedures over a catheter, so a minimally invasive approach by putting a tube, usually into the artery in the groin, and threading it up to the heart, and then inflating the heart valve at the location that needs to be replaced.
And it seems as though if we are treating the heart valve, then more costly and more concerning issues with the heart happen down the line.
That is correct. So the process of late treatment means that the valve may be replaced, but the pump of the heart may be damaged in a way that at the moment is irreparable.
I can't express more vividly that having the operation is the one single best thing I have ever done in my life for my body.
You need to be diligent, you need to listen to your body, and you need to act. You need to go to your doctor and ask him to listen to your heart.
The message is not to wait. I think the message is to take exercise capacity seriously. People at all stages of life should be aiming to do at least half an hour of activity a day, enough to make them feel a bit short of breath. And if they're finding that they're less able to do that than they were last year or the year before, that's not something to ignore. That's something to take note of and have somebody review.
Well, it's a familiar story, isn't it, Joe? Early detection and intervention is the go-to. It feels like another one to add to the GP checklist.
Also because the heartbeat is an involuntary movement, so we never have to think about it unless it beats faster or does something we're not used to feeling. But how far we've come with heart surgery, Das. Up until the 40s, many heart surgeries were considered experimental. Now, around 1 million people undergo cardiac surgery around the world every year.
Yeah, fixing blocked arteries is the most common surgery, as well as repairing or replacing heart valves. So science sure has come a long way on that front.
Up next, the hidden dangers of developing a high tolerance to alcohol.
It's a timely warning when many people are drinking way more than usual. We'll tell you that story right after the break. Joe, time spent in lockdown has seen many people turn to the bottle, whether it's a way to combat the boredom, remove yourself from reality, a way to connect socially over Zoom. We've seen a lot of that. Or simply that people have had more time to make fancy cocktails. Our alcohol intake has gone through the roof, it's fair to say.
Yeah, and the Alcohol and Drug Foundation has reported that 1 in 8 people are drinking daily during the pandemic, and about 1 in 3 Aussies drink to risky levels regularly. Das, we see evidence of this, especially on social media. People posting pics of cocktails and alcohol stockpiles with the phrase lockdown sorted. And like we talked about earlier, right, if it's not food, then it's something else, and in this case, it's alcohol.
Well, we've seen those images when lockdowns were being called, that, you know, people literally carrying a year's supply with them into lockdown, which probably isn't the most sustainable or healthy thing. I think we'll, you know, talk about the 80-20 rule, things in moderation, but if it's got out of hand, it's not going to end well, is it, eventually?
I understand it though, Das, because it just sort of creeps into your lifestyle and you think it's fun and a bit of a break from your routine, and next thing you're having too many in a day or in a week.
No, it's good. I generally understand why people are drinking more, but it's a pastime I like to keep in check because there's a serious side too, isn't there? Drinking regularly and over the recommended limit can increase a person's tolerance to alcohol, meaning they drink often and more. It's a term that's being labelled, I think it reminds me of the footy days, you're piss fit, Joe, if I'm allowed to say that on the House of Wellness.
I know. Well, I'm going to say it too. You don't have to be an alcoholic to be piss fit. You can be an everyday, fully functioning person who's slowly increasing your alcohol intake and building up your resilience to the effects. However, nobody ever builds up resistance to the many bad side effects of drinking alcohol.
I've heard the term piss fit, and it seems to be a term that the younger generation in particular are using to describe when you're tolerant on alcohol, when you drink quite a lot and you don't fall over and you don't necessarily look drunk. The trouble with the term is it implies it's a rather good thing. We all want to be fit. But of course, even though you may not get as drunk, you may not slur your speech, you may not fall over, the harms from alcohol are still happening. When a person's tolerant on alcohol, they're often not aware of the harms that are going on, both inside them and with their emotions and their mood. With tolerance, the body's fighting back against the sleepy effects of alcohol. When someone drinks, the alcohol makes them sleepy. If they drink every day, the body turns up their natural uppers, their natural stimulants to try and keep them awake. And that's a problem because then when they stop drinking, they're left feeling wired and anxious and unable to sleep. But if someone's a daily heavy drinker and they become dependent on alcohol and very tolerant, then they stop drinking and they have the tremor, they can't sleep at all, they feel very stressed, very anxious, and they have an intense craving for more alcohol. Up to half our drinking pattern is determined by our genes, because they've done twin studies where they look at identical versus non-identical twins. And the non-identical twins have the same environment, but their genes aren't as similar. But when you look at identical twins, their drinking tends to be very similar, their pattern. So if you've got a strong family history of drinking problems, you want to be particularly careful about your own alcohol use. A lot of people think they're drinking one standard drink, but the sizes of drinks that you serve at home are often well over one drink. The glasses of wine most people pour at home are closer to 2 standard drinks. And most of the commonly consumed serves of beer, like schooners or cans, they're well over a standard drink. So worth checking what a standard drink is and measuring your drink sizes at home now and then so you know what you're actually drinking. Alcohol's in the top rank of carcinogens, cancer-causing agents, right up there in the same rank as asbestos. So if a person drinks even 2 or 3 drinks a day, their risk of cancers can start to go up. Your risk of breast cancer for a woman starts to go up only from 1 or 2 drinks a day. For a man, the risk of bowel cancer goes up from about 3 drinks a day. But if you stick to those limits of no more than 10 drinks a week, you've got much less chance of developing a harm from alcohol like cancer. If you're tolerant to alcohol and you do cut back, then you can get the same enjoyment from it without the harms. You feel the effect more at a lower amount of alcohol, and you can still enjoy the taste. So it's worth it. Save money, better health, better sleep, better mood.
No doubt it is a big issue that's pretty much affecting people across the board. But on the flip side, there's also a growing national movement towards giving up alcohol altogether, Joe.
Yeah, Alcoholics Anonymous reports that participation in virtual meetings has at least doubled worldwide over the course of the pandemic. So while many are turning to drink, just as many are choosing a 100% sober lifestyle.
Now, you mentioned a few times before, Joe, that your husband Daz has given up the grog for good. Has that been a life-changing experience for, I'm assuming, for him and you as well?
Oh, absolutely incredible. He gave up drinking 5 years ago, and what he is now, the person he is now as a partner and a father and in his career, there's no way he would be that person if he'd kept drinking.
Yeah, what a great story it is. Well done to you, Daz. Now, another one of your favourite topics is coming up, Joe.
Is it feet or is it gut health?
Well,
is it gut health?
We're swapping the winter boots for summer thongs, so it means getting the bare feet out, Joe. It's something that you love. Podiatrist Helen Banwell's coming up right after this on the House of Wellness.
Hi, I'm Jake Kisnorbo and welcome to my world of beauty. From the latest trends in skincare and makeup to creating a look that's just right for you, I've got the tips and tricks to make you look and feel great from the inside out. Sarah, when it comes to skincare, I think it's always about being sun smart, and really the only safe tan is a fake tan.
Absolutely, Jade. It makes such a big difference to my confidence. I even put some on last night and I feel like I've been to the Bahamas.
I was going to say Bahamas, Jamaica, where have you been?
Where I want to take you.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many options and it can be really hard to pick the right colour and you don't want the fake tan smell.
And that's why today I wanted to introduce you, Sarah, to the Mind Tan range. It's great because you can customise it depending on what your skin tone is and skin type, and also the finish that you would like to have. So I love the fact that it doesn't smell. Like we were saying earlier, you hate to have anything that smells and your partner comments on. And also the fact that there's no orange tone. So there will be no Oompa Loompas when we have our Mind Tan on.
I've definitely had an Oompa Loompa moment in my time.
Me too.
Glad to avoid those.
Especially the teenage years. Oh, the 20. Oh, not good. Mind Tan is where cosmetics and skincare meets tan. The colours in the range are dark ash, violet, caramel and olive, and they're all designed to complement the skin and counteract any skin undertones. The colour of my choice is the original OG, the olive.
I have used the violet. I've got quite an olive base of my skin, so the violet was the best choice for me, which comes out as a super dark, rich, warm brown tone, and it's self-adjusting, the formula. So no matter what colour your skin is underneath, it will continue to develop in a way that suits your skin tone. It's amazing.
What you're also going to love is the PETA-approved ingredients in each of the foams, and they're all about skincare benefits. So the fact that they have the coconut oil and the macadamia nut oil is great because it's all about nourishing our skin, which is great when you're using a tanner. It's free of parabens, it's vegan friendly, and it contains 100% natural DHA.
What's DHA?
So it basically interacts naturally with the amino acids on your skin cells. So in other words, it's that magic ingredient that makes you beautiful and bronzed.
And I know we're all really time poor and we're really impatient, just want the results to show up straight away. And so instead of having to wait 8 hours like you used to have to, these are an express 1 hour tan. So from as little as 1 hour, you can see the results.
Let's pop on our mitts and let's get bronzing.
Jade, Kay and Sarah there with some good options on how to tan safely. I love that you can customise your tan now, Darcy. I'm sure you're really thrilled to learn that little piece of
Something
information.
I've thought of, I'll be honest with you,
You can
Joe.
be light, medium, dark, whatever you wish.
Yes, I can be very Irish, I think, Joe, is about where it is back for me. Well, that brings me to feet, which I know you're not happy to talk about. I think it's fair to say that one body part that people get a little bit self-conscious about. Is that fair to say?
Oh, gosh, after how many months of lockdown, my feet look like trolls. Don't ever look at them. But I imagine your feet playing footy all those years don't look so great either.
No, it's not going to be a foot model anytime soon.
Well, I reckon our feet deserve way more love than we give them. After all, they carry us around, give us an excuse to buy fabulous shoes, and if we're lucky to live until we're 80, they would have helped us walk the equivalent of 5 times around the earth. Amazing.
That is incredible, isn't it? They're very hard-working, Joe, so it's no surprise that they're also prone to being damaged. It might be a yellow toenail, a touch of tinea, or an odour that's not the best.
It's actually not something I like to think about. And let me say thank you to all the podiatrists out there. You are amazing. Here's Helen Bamwell, who's seen it all.
Our feet are often a much maligned part of the body and people can be really embarrassed by things that affect their feet. But trust me, as a podiatrist, we've seen it all and there's not much that shocks us. One of the most common things that we see is stock standard garden variety tinea. So when we talk about tinea, it really is a fungal infection. So if you think about the things that encourage fungus to grow, so if you think about mushrooms, they grow very well in dark, moist, dank areas. So part and parcel of avoiding tinea is to keep the area clean and dry and preferably exposed to sunlight when you can. And one of the biggest things that you might want to consider changing are your socks. Commonly, there is quite a high percentage of polyester to a sock. So when we look at it, they have got a lovely stretch to them, but that high percentage of synthetic fibre will create far more sweat. Now, I need to talk about sweat just for a minute because the foot sweats an extraordinary amount. Because of the thicker skin, we have nearly 250,000 sweat glands across our feet, and together they will produce up to a cup of sweat per day. Please be aware that there are lovely socks available that have beautiful soft top, cotton tops, or wool blend in this case, that will expand as your calf expands. So think about your socks for the fit and also for wicking away some of that moisture that tends to get in there and create a perfect opportunity for tinea to grow. So another problem that comes with all that sweating of the foot is that sometimes they can get a little bit smelly. So technically known as bromhidrosis, it's where the bacteria in the area take advantage of that warm, moist, dark area that shoes and socks encourage, and it can get a little bit more of a bacterial load. So tips for avoiding sweat is wear socks at all times, clean, dry socks. So even if you're wearing shoes that don't normally accommodate socks, try and look for a small socket. So something, that just slides over and protects as much of the foot as possible and helps wick that sweat away. The other thing to consider is that all of that sweat is pouring into your shoes, and often it doesn't have a chance to dry out across the day. So if you've got a particular pair of shoes that you must wear for work or that you absolutely love wearing, consider buying 2 pairs and alternating your wear each day. And we actually find, because that does allow the sweat to dry out, you'll end up with 4 times the length of wear available in those shoes because they are completely drying out between, and so they don't tend to degenerate as quickly as what they would if you were wearing them every day. So another thing that people get really embarrassed about is the condition of their toenails. Now, if you get some yellow streaking under your nail, as unappetising as that is generally a sign that there is a fungal infection occurring. So please do pop off and see somebody to have that looked at. The one that concerns me more though is when the nails become black. Now, I think we've probably all at some stage in our life dropped something heavy on our nail and got an instant bruise that can be incredibly painful under our nail. Those kind of blackened nails don't bother me so much, but anybody who develops a black streak or a black patch in that nail that persists, please do see your GP or a podiatrist, because we know that melanomas do occur under the nails, and unfortunately we can't slip, slop and slap on our nails, so they are exposed to the sun quite a bit.
So, Joe, the recommendation from the National Heart Foundation is that we walk about 10,000 steps a day, which is about 8 kilometres. How does that work for you?
There is no way I get that much done in a day. Do you?
Yeah, that'd be about right on. I actually am a big walker with Dennis, and sort of Beck and I, that's get up in the morning, get out, particularly in lockdown, I've had the chance to sort of at least get 10,000.
I'm impressed. I wish I did, and I have discovered that the power walking is really super fun and kind of sometimes better than running because you see more, and I can chat away with my dear friend, and she's got elbows to die for though, so I have to try and steer clear of them, but it's great fun.
And I brought up the conversation because we've walked so much together over the last 2 years that perhaps we could put some earphones in and maybe listen to a podcast in case you run out of things to say, Joe. It's been a long time, a lot of steps.
Yes, that's true. You'll get by though.
We'll get through. Yeah. From moving our feet to clearing up common childhood diseases, the Doctor's Car are here to deliver the remedy for chickenpox and more. That's coming up next on the House of Wellness.
How's your skin feeling, Xavier?
Well, today it's pretty good. It's just a bit dry.
So when Xavier has a flare-up on his hands, they will be really red and it will affect him even inside the webs of his hands. He'll be really itchy. They'll look really red, flaky, sore. At first, I didn't know what it was. Although I had experienced eczema, it was different. We had a great family doctor who really supported us and supported me as a first-time mum because I was quite an anxious, nervous mum.
The last thing any parent wants is to see their child suffer. But Lucy has watched her 13-year-old son Xavier deal with eczema most of his life.
He started the itching at 3 months. I guess as a teenager now, it could be a little embarrassing for him. He does get it a bit on his face now too, especially with the use of masks.
It's a bit annoying when it flares up. And yeah, like it's hard to stop yourself from scratching. Well, I try to think about something else. Try to moisturise so it feels better.
So eczema can present in a variety of different symptoms, but most typically it links back to experiencing very dry, red, itchy skin. And you'll often see it in places like the crook of the elbows, the back of the knees, but you can experience it actually on your face, anywhere on your body. If you think you might be experiencing eczema, your first port of call should be to a medical professional, as it does need diagnosis.
Eczema affects 1 in 5 families in Australia and 30% of Australian children. It's the most common inflammatory skin disease in the world.
So the skin barrier, I guess, is the last thing between us and the outside world. The skin barrier is made up of different components and they resemble the walls of a house. So you have corneocytes, which are like the bricks, and then you've got lipids that work like the mortar to make that wall really strong. Now, when you have eczema, your wall isn't working the way that someone else's would. And what that means is that moisture can actually escape more easily, but also environmental irritants can get in more easily. And that triggers that inflammatory response. It's really important when you have eczema to think about managing the condition rather than just trying to treat the symptoms. QV Derm Care Eczema Daily is really unique because it's actually being tested on moderate eczema skin. So now it's the first of its kind in Australia to be registered as a therapeutic medical device, which is great because it can give people real confidence that the product they're using has been tested on skin that's similar to their own. The QV Derm Care Eczema Daily range includes a soap-free wash that hydrates while it cleanses, as well as a cream, which is an intensely hydrating formula made up of moisturisers and ceramides. Used in combination, they actually help to repair the skin barrier and also alleviate those symptoms that can be experienced in mild to moderate eczema, such as itch and really rough, dry skin. And lastly, remember, you're not alone. It's a very common condition, and so there are lots of different support groups out there that can help you navigate quite a tricky situation.
You can definitely manage it. You just have to find the right creams for you and find what's irritating you.
Well, before the break, we looked at the common foot complaints that make some people cringe with embarrassment, like what they call funky toenails. Now, that's a word that can mean two very different things. Joe, I know you don't like talking about feet.
No, and funky toenails, that's not something you're pulling out on a dance floor.
It's like a 1980s band, doesn't it?
It sounds terrible. It's not a thing I'm a fan of. I don't like the word pox either. Not a fan of that either. Because we associate pox with, chicken pox and all those horrible things you have as a kid. You remember how itchy it was and you'd get spots all over you?
Joe, I've got this vivid recollection, I think, or whether Mum's told me, but I remember all the kids in the neighbourhood getting chicken pox and Mum putting us in the bath together. So we got a small dose of chicken pox when we were younger. I suppose an early idea around vaccination.
I guess so, but nowadays toddlers can actually get vaccinated against chicken pox for free. But what is the disease and has it, in fact, got anything to do with chickens? Surely not. Our doctors, past and present, have the answers.
Hi and welcome to Medicine Past, Present and Future. My name's Dr. Nick and I'm the past.
My name's Dr. Isabel and I'm the future.
And together, we're the present. Now, today, Dr. Isabel, we're talking about chickenpox and shingles, and many people will know that they're connected. So, Dr. Isabel, please explain.
Yeah, that's right. So both shingles and chickenpox are actually the same virus. To put it simply, you get chickenpox, the virus hangs around in your system, and much later it can come back as shingles.
So you can't actually catch shingles, it's just your own chickenpox recurring.
That's right.
Now, Let's go back a little bit. Many older viewers might remember what were called the pox parties. Now, this was before vaccination, where parents would get their kids together to get the chicken pox over and done with.
So, Dr. Nick, if we used to literally throw children together to get them to get chicken pox, why do we need a vaccine?
Well, that's a great question, Dr. Isabel. Now, you and your siblings were actually born before vaccination was available, and you all got chicken pox and you were fine. But you may remember that your little sister, Olivia, she was covered in spots from head to toe. Now, if those spots get infected, they can leave really nasty scars.
But she's only got one little scar on her shoulder.
Yeah, but she was lucky. Now, other possible complications of chickenpox include pneumonia, neurological complications like meningitis, and sometimes kids even used to die.
Thankfully, these days, due to vaccination, we don't see that many kids getting really sick from the chickenpox. But, Dr. Nick, why is it called chickenpox and what has it got to do with chickens?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And first up, no, you cannot catch chickenpox from chooks. The name's actually been around for hundreds of years and nobody quite knows where it came from. One theory is that it's because the rash looks as though you've been pecked by a chicken.
Yeah.
The other theory is that chickenpox is a milder version of the much more serious smallpox, and so it was weak or chicken.
I think I like the pecky one better.
Yeah, me too.
So let's talk about shingles. Where does that name come from, Dr. Nick?
So you know how I love a bit of Latin?
Yes.
And shingles comes from the Latin word cingulum, meaning belt or sheath, because of the way the rash is distributed. Now, whereas chickenpox can happen spots anywhere and everywhere, shingles is different, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So shingles travels down what's called the cutaneous nerve, which means when it comes up on the skin, it comes up on one side and normally in a band-like pattern, hence like a belt. But Dr. Nick, why does it come back anyway?
Yeah, so remember what you said earlier, that you get your chickenpox, it stays in the system. As we get older, our immunity drops. And so shingles is more common in older adults.
Oh, like...
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Isabel, the over 60s.
And it can be really painful, even long after the rash itself is gone.
Yes, a thing called post-herpetic neuralgia. Really unpleasant, but fortunately, we have good antivirals, which can help not just with the rash, but with the complications. But Dr. Isabel, what is better than cure?
Prevention, Dr. Nick, which is where the shingles vaccine comes in. There are 2 types that are available, especially for the over 50s. So if you haven't had yours yet, have a chat with your doctor.
Are you looking at me again?
Yeah, Dr. Nick, because 1 in 3 older Australians will get shingles at some point.
Ooh.
So have you had your shingles vaccine?
Well, now you mentioned that, I'll get onto it. But I have had both my COVID shots.
Oh, me too.
Welcome back to the House of Wellness Kitchen and to my sous chef GQ. Now, mate, we love talking about the benefits of food when it comes to supporting our health and well-being, but you can't go past a really good quality night's sleep.
Well, so true, Heinzie. I gather if I have a poor night's sleep, I've heard I get a bit antsy. I don't believe that. But would you know that up to 45% of we Aussies have poor quality or duration of sleep?
That is a lot of people struggling to get good quality Z's, mate, but never fear, that is where I come in, because food can play a massive role in supporting your sleep. Now, some of them are old wives' tales, like having a warm glass of milk before bed, but these are the real deal. Things like oats, nuts and seeds, the ones that make up my delicious golden granola clusters.
That's because, Heinzie, your oats, nuts and seeds contain the mighty mineral magnesium.
Now, I know that magnesium is fantastic for our muscles. It can help relieve spasms and cramps and also help them relax, but sleep too?
Well, you said it, Heinzie. It's all about muscle relaxation and winding our body down before sleep. But magnesium also plays an important role in winding down our mind too. It does this by relieving restlessness and calming nervous energy, which may prevent us from falling asleep.
The good news is you can source magnesium from a wide variety of different food sources to suit any diet or lifestyle. My advice is eat the rainbow and you'll be sure to get a good hit of magnesium.
We can always turn to supplementation, Heinzie, if we feel that our intake of magnesium is inadequate, as a lemon-flavoured oral powder which suits those who would rather not take a tablet or a capsule.
Love your work, GQ. Sounds like we'll have people sleeping soundly in no time. Or, in your case, snoring.
No, you
Snoring
can't.
like a little pig.
Snore.
Like a little piglet, even.
Say
Like,
that. I do
I'm
not
Gerald,
snore.
and I'm a little piglet, and I'm snoring. Rub my belly, please. The A to Z of Vitamins is brought to you by Bioceuticals Ultra Muscle Ease Night, a readily bioavailable form of magnesium to relieve sleeplessness when dietary intake is inadequate.
Well, that is a genuine surprise to me that nuts can actually help you get a better night's sleep. Great work from Luke Hines and GQ there. Now, as we know, Gerald is a long-standing member of the House of Wellness family. He's a master herbalist and pharmacist. And the reason I'm making special mention of GQ, Joe, which I know you're excited about, is because it's National Pharmacist Day. And the theme this year is always trusted for your health, which I think is pretty fitting, really.
Yeah, aren't they just the best pharmacists? I see them as a conduit between me and the doctor. They've got loads of health advice and services, including flu and even COVID jabs. And I reckon they must have excellent hearing, Daz, because, you know, all those times you go in and you're whispering over the counter. Hemorrhoids. Yeah. No, that didn't happen. That's not me.
Got some warts, and they're very sensitive and they do a great job, so we appreciate them. September 25th was World Pharmacist Day, and of course our favourite is GQ, who is here, as always, to answer your health questions loud and clear.
Nerve pain or neuropathic pain has many causes. It could be trauma, surgical procedures, even diseases like diabetes. What we have here are nerve endings that are overexcited, very sensitive to stimuli like touch or heat or cold. In people with diabetes, tablets of vitamin B12 that dissolve in the mouth are very useful. For others, high-potency turmeric. Lipoic acid 400 milligram twice a day after food can settle those overexcited nerve endings. Interestingly, we don't know how these nutrients actually work, but importantly, they can make a difference. Another health issue involving nerves is carpal tunnel syndrome. The carpal tunnel is the area on the palm side of your wrist. Inside there are ligaments and two sensory nerves. The nerves control the movement of your fingers and of your wrist. Carpal tunnel syndrome develops when swelling occurs inside that tunnel, putting pressure on the nerves, resulting in intense pain, numbing and tingling. Interestingly, it's more common in middle-aged women. But the best treatments are the anti-inflammatories like turmeric and reducing fluid inside the tunnel using celery or vitamin B6. And of course, sometimes we experience health issues with our hands and our feet that don't involve nerves. A fungal infection can sometimes arise in the nails of the fingers or the toes. Luckily, a non-toxic, naturally occurring substance has been developed here right in Australia. AMYCOT from the blue-green algae is an effective antifungal that penetrates the nail to treat the invading fungus, and no filing is needed. It's not a simple and easy option. It takes time. So regular treatment twice a day for up to 3 months is needed to get your nails back to normal. And of course, if symptoms persist, see your health professional and they'll give you the best advice. And most importantly, be well, live well, stay well.
Earlier this year, we spoke to Dr. Barbara Barbosa-Neves, and she shared her research into loneliness in aged care homes, Joe. She also talked about the prevalence of ageism in society that is obsessed with youth.
Yeah, remember she spoke about one particular resident, 90-year-old Bernie, who said the worst thing about living in aged care was bingo, because he hated it, because it's so boring and he wanted it gone.
Yeah, as he said, did they ask us what we're interested in? Everyone thinks because we're old, we're like, bingo. Bernie wanted to go roller skating in his 90s. What a champion.
Absolutely. I reckon Bernie would have loved this woman whose aim is to blow the sweet little old lady stereotype out of the water. Edith Murway Traynor is a great-great-grandmother and former dance instructor who took up weightlifting 9 years ago, aged 91. She's now 100 years old.
Incredibly, Edith set a world record when she was 98, deadlifting 68 kilos, which I'm not sure I could do right now. It's a fair lift. No surprise that she'll be a star feature in the 2022 Guinness Book of World Records for being the world's oldest competitive power lifter. What a story.
She's got a stack of weightlifting trophies under her belt as well, Darce. If I have her fight at half her age, I will be pretty happy. Well, I am basically half her age right now. And I don't have that kind of strength.
It's inspiring though, isn't it? I love people who are lifelong learners. 9 years ago, so what age is she?
91.
91 to take up weightlifting. How
Amazing.
inspiring is that to want to keep learning and keep improving? Brilliant story to end the show on for today. Check out our website for more information and tune in to Joe and GQ every Sunday for the House of Wellness radio show.
And check out our podcast, Best of You. It covers a whole range of mental health challenges, from the grief of losing a loved one to breaking a bad habit and everything in between. It's available wherever you get your podcasts.
Congratulations on the Best of You, Joe. It's fantastic. Loving the podcast format at the moment as well, empowering leaders. I've had the great privilege of speaking to inspirational leaders, including Kylie Watson-Wheeler, the head of Disney.
She's amazing.
She's a champion.
Yep.
Justin Langer from the Australian cricket team as well. So where you find all your good podcasts as well.
And don't miss the Wellness Lift Out in the weekend papers with cricket legend Shane Warne on the cover.
Always great to hear from Warnie. Thanks as always to our great friends at Chemist Warehouse. Stay well and we'll see you next time.